Good afternoon. It's a beautiful day at Good Works Auto Repair here in sunny Tempe, Arizona. Today we're going to do another episode of Under the Hood with Glen. And so I'm Glen Hayward. I'm the owner of Good Works, and we're going to go inside and see what's going on inside the shop. All right, well, come on in. Let's look at this vehicle that we have in here. We have an aging Astro van, about a 2002. And this gentleman was driving along. He takes very, very good care of this vehicle for the most part. And we've been taking care of him for a couple of years. And he had a radiator put in there, and there was a problem with the radiator. And apparently he kept driving it after the vehicle started to overheat. And so his story is that he checks everything. He's a delivery driver, so he picks up things and delivers them to different places. And he checks his oil and all that other stuff. And this particular day, and very seldom since he had the radiator installed, has he ever bothered to check the radiator fluid level and to see if there was a problem. So he drove the vehicle confidently, believing that there was nothing wrong, and all of a sudden his temperature gauge started to go up. And he kept driving it, and then all of a sudden it started blowing steam out the vehicle and everything. And so he pulled over and he looked at it, and he saw steam coming out the lower part of the radiator, which had failed. And so as a result of that, he drove it a little bit further, got to an auto parts store, hosed it down a little bit, and then he put some water in the radiator to try to get home. Unfortunately, he had already gone beyond the point of no return, and he had overheated the engine to the degree where he had blown the head gaskets. And you've probably heard of that happening to people's cars. Maybe it's happened to you. And usually it's as a result of people just trying to get to the next exit, or find a place to pull off the road where they felt safe or whatever, or they just thought they'd get it home so that they could call a tow truck or call their garage and say, hey, my car's overheating, what should I do? And sometimes people aren't as honest as they should be and say, yeah, I drove it for 4 miles, or I drove it for 5 miles, or I drove it for 10 miles and tried to get it home. So his damage was basically, right here is the engine block, and here is a gasket called a head gasket. So the cylinder head sits on here. The cylinder heads are currently at a machine shop being machined because they warp when they get hot. So you got one cylinder head that sits here, one on the other side of the engine. And this is the gasket set. I'm going to show you what a head gasket looks like. Here's the kit. That's going to go back on here when we put the engine back together. So underneath here, you have cylinder head gaskets. So you can see that they're very thin. And because they're very thin, when those heads get hot, that metal gets so hot that it starts to move and it actually warps. So the coolant and the oil, which go through these passages here, these holes in the gaskets, start to seep into the cylinders, and the combustion, the pressure from the cylinders, forces air or exhausted gas back through these head gaskets and overpressurize the cooling system. So you got a double negative there. Two problems. One, your cooling system is already low. The second one is the pressure from the cylinders even forces the water out faster. Now that the head gaskets have blown, these become little pumps, and they're pumping the combustion or the exhaust from the engine back into the cooling system through those passages in the gaskets, and you end up depleting the coolant even faster. So what could have been a simple fix of replacing his radiator under warranty at no cost to him is going to cost him now over $2,000 to do what we had to do. So we lowered the entire engine cradle here. You see the transmission back behind the engine, air conditioning, all the wiring harnesses, everything had to be disconnected. This is about a 12-hour job to take this engine apart. Then there's the charges from the machine shop to machine the head to make it flat again, and do other machining procedures they have to do to make sure that the heads are good. They magniflux them to make sure that there's no cracks in the head. And so he's got about a $400 bill over at the machine shop, plus the gasket set, plus our labor, plus the oil and the antifreeze and all the other fluids, the recharging of the AC system, and all the things that we have to do. So altogether, he's going to spend about $2,500 to fix a problem that could have been fixed as simple as pulling over to the side of the road, calling a tow truck, and we have coverage that actually covers the tow. So he wouldn't have even had to pay for the tow. He would have only had to have it towed to the shop. We would have covered the tow, and we would have fixed his engine. we wouldn't have had to fix his engine. We would have replaced the radiator and he would have been out zero out of pocket. Instead, he's going out $2,500 out of pocket. So the lesson today is when you have a light on, you have a condition, you have a gauge, or you have a light that says engine hot, pull over, stop, whatever it's telling you to do, or you see your gauge is pegged, there's something wrong. You need to pull over immediately. When you become aware of it, stop dead in your tracks no matter where you are, get on your cell phone, call a tow truck, have it towed to your favorite shop. Hopefully it's us. And if not, take it to your favorite shop and have them look at it before you do more damage. That's going to damage not only the engine itself, but it's going to damage your pocketbook. So the idea here is preemptive, not only repairs and maintenance and checking those things. This guy, he says he checks everything every day before he takes it out on his road. He checks the oil and all that other stuff, but he didn't check the coolant. And that was where he erred, and he admitted that to me today. He came and looked to see how we were doing on the thing, and he admitted he didn't check the coolant. He rarely checks the coolant, especially after the radiator had been replaced. So all of that could have been prevented. Sometimes parts are defective, and his radiator was installed almost a year ago. But after a year, something cracked in the radiator. We don't know if something came up and hit it and cracked it, or if it was just a defective part. Nevertheless, all of that would have been fixed for free. But now he's got collateral damage here that he's going to have to pay out of pocket. So the lesson to you folks is if you see a light, call somebody, ask if it's harmful. If it's a check engine light and it's not flashing, you can probably make it home safely. If that light is flashing, you need to stop because you could be damaging your catalytic converter and other components inside the motor. Those are expensive repairs. So if you can avoid having to spend that extra money, yes, you still have to repair something, but the damage control is going to be well under control, and it's going to make that repair that much less. So Under the Hood with Glen, again, thank you for your time, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. See you next time.